Yeah, we're live. It is 3:30 in the PM here in sunny California. Tonight, later on, in fact, in less than 3 hours, 2 hours, and, excuse me, 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm going to be on with Chad. So we're going to be doing a live feed and we'll be talking about all kinds of fun stuff. I've got clips from the Wheel of Death coming. And Chad, all I have to do is just come on and be live and then let Chad do his thing. And trust me, he's got it all covered. So it's going to be fun. He's just a lot of fun to hang around. So you guys all love that. But tonight, before that, right now, we want to talk about turbo sizing. And the reason for that is I have some turbos coming up. We're probably going to test, I'm thinking 6 or 7 different size turbos, particularly for LSs. But when we test them, we'll also know how applicable they'll be for other things. So we're going to try some, 3582s and 3076s and we can test them on all the way up to, we've got stuff that's probably 12 or 1300 horsepower and maybe stuff that's 6, 7, 800, whatever. We want to try stuff in the whole range. And then that way, when I can tell people, hey, look, here's testing that we actually did. And then we also want to do some on Jimmy's J35, his NSX. And so we can put them on some smaller motors and go, yeah, they work on 3.5 liters and they work on 4.8s and 5.3s and 6.0s and all that stuff. We could talk about a lot of different things. One of the things that while we're talking about this, while we're waiting for these turbos to come in, is I did some testing. Jimmy has a turbo right now in his NSX. He's been driving around. It's probably, I don't know, 750 or something at the tires. It's a lot. And it got me thinking, I remember running that turbo when I had it. We thought it was kind of too small for an LS, but we did run it on an LS. In fact, we ran it with one of his kits way back. I was looking back at the data from when he had HP Performance, they did a kit for trucks, a single turbo kit for trucks. And we ran it. In fact, the thumbnail that you see up for this video is that kit. That's actually designed for a Chevy truck. And they used to offer that. And we tested it on the dyno, and we tested it within one of the, I think that's the only turbo that I had at the time that I thought would work on the LS. Because Precision had sent me 2 turbos, and they sent me what I thought was a 7675. I think that's what it was. And that was the big turbo. It's not big, it's 12 or 1300 horsepower, or whatever. But because we've made that much power from it. But then also this 67 millimeter turbo, which I thought was a little on the small side. In fact, we used that turbo to set records at Bonneville in a 2.5 liter Suzuki Kizashi. So that's the turbo that we ran. So worked really good on that. Works really good on Jimmy's NSX. And as we found out during this testing that was back in 2009 or 10 or something like that, that it worked very good on that application too. We ran it on basically a bone stock 5.3, stock heads, cam, intake manifold, throttle body, all of that stuff. And then we ran it with that turbo. In fact, I did a test where we ran it intercooled and non-intercooled. And looking back at the data, because I was curious to see kind of how the response would be. Now, the response rate of the turbo measuring that on engine dyno is not ideal, because we have a stationary load and you just never have that. You never have that, in any sort of situation on the street or the track. You can put it on a 2-step and launch it and power brake it and do some of that stuff. But you usually don't see what we do on the dyno. You just load the thing at wide open throttle and let it sit there for a second and then release it and then have it go. That sort of situation is not really duplicated anywhere. And so it really artificially helps the turbo to spool up. Now, that being said, on the engine dyno, we do see big differences in spool rate, assuming that they're big enough not to be totally affected by that sort of situation. The other thing we could do is we could roll into it and then just release it before it even grabs and loads the thing down and just let it take off. The other thing that we could do is start way low, which is what we did on the Big Bang motors. Because when we did the Big Bang, especially the first ones, we did the Big Bang 4.8 and 5.3, we had the 276 millimeters from CX Racing, And because we had two of those and we had, 12 or 1300 horsepower with the turbo at any rate, and particularly on the 4.8, it was pretty soft down low. So if we load the thing in at 3000 RPM, it really wasn't making much boost. And then when we release it, it would start getting into its happy place, and then it would come on and make power. That worked perfect for that kind of test because we didn't really care about response rate. And I remember, obviously, we got a lot of comments about that first Big Bang thing, and even the second one, even the 5.3, where we made more power. But a lot of the comments were, well, that would be terrible on the street. Yeah, it would be, because that's not what you'd pick to go do that. You wouldn't pick that for response rate. You're asking for something different than what we were trying to achieve. If you want that other thing, we could make that. In fact, you just put one of those on there, it would be responsive. But so what I'm saying is the dyno still does tell us if there are dramatic differences in spool rate. In fact, we saw that on the comparison they did with twins and singles of different sizes and all that. And so that does work to some extent, but also the reason that we want to test them in a vehicle on an LS, on the chassis dyno, even on the street, we can data log, boost response on the street, just like nailing the throttle or whatever. We can even do it at 2000 RPM. How much boost do we get at 2000 RPM? Hopefully we don't have any, but we can show that and show what it does in a gear roll or whatever. And, the interesting thing about that is that we talk about that, guys talk about that. Oh yeah, I want all the boost at 2000 RPM. You probably don't. But also, you're not going to get that the same in every instance while you're cruising down the road. If you're cruising down the road and then you just nail the throttle, more likely than not, you don't have a whole bunch of heat in the turbo. If you nail the throttle and go, and then you nail the throttle again, the second time that you nail the throttle, it will be more responsive because it has more heat in the turbo from before when you just put a bunch of heat in the turbo. We see that on the engine dyno. You will also see that on the street. At any rate, when Jimmy and I were talking, I said, Jimmy, I think I ran that turbo on a V8 already. I think I ran it on an LS with your kit on it long ago. We were thinking it was like way back, but 2010, I think, is when it turned out to be, which is not, that's still 15 years ago, but which is a long time. But I did run that. And on the test that we ran it on, we loaded the motor in at 3000 RPM. And we basically had full boost there. Now, and the thing that we were talking about when Jimmy and I were talking is that if you look at the curve, it starts out about 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds lower, and then comes up and then kind of goes straight across, kind of like what you'd expect when the wastegate opens up and the wastegate's controlling the boost. I'm like, yeah, that's weird. Okay, maybe the turbo on that stock motor doesn't respond as good as I think, and then it's coming up and the wastegate's opening is clipping that, and it's doing the kind of boost curve that you think it should do on a turbo that didn't respond the way that you'd want it to. But then when we raised the boost, the whole curve raised by the same amount. We raised it up, like, let's say 2 pounds. In this case, it was 3 pounds. And we raised it up, and it was 3 pounds better everywhere. So I'm thinking, well, okay, we've raised it 3 pounds now, and it can still make 3 more pounds down at 3000 RPM. So it could make all of the boost at the lower boost level. It's just not doing that. So now we got to figure out why. The answer probably is a boost controller would solve that. So we'd have the same boost all the way across. So that tells me that turbo sizing with that motor can make 7, 8, 10, 11, 12 pounds, whatever, and can make that power, and it could make that power going straight across if you had the proper control of the boost. And that's one way to look at that, because you can look at the curve and come to the conclusion that I did and go, oh, okay, well, that thing's coming up and then going across. That should be our wastegate opening point. This is all before the wastegate opening point. But then when you get another data point, you're like, oh, something's happening here. Because what happens if you take a look, for instance, and I've shown this many times in the Big Bang tests where we had, big turbos and we had 2 wastegates, when I turn the boost up on these combinations, they come up exactly the same way every time. So they spool up exactly the same. The only thing that happens when we raise the boost from 10 pounds to 15 pounds is that now it doesn't stop and roll over at that 10 pound mark. it goes up to the 15 and raises it. But everything before that is exactly the same. So it doesn't start, it starts making boost and starts making power at the same point every time. It's just when we turn the boost up, it just goes up and up and up. Now that's why this one that I'm talking about is weird. It shouldn't start out making more power or more boost, from the get-go. That tells me that, hey, look, that turbo is way more responsive than we think. And so controlling that boost is the key to success of making that boost curve like perfectly flat all the way. It still doesn't tell us what it would do at 2000, but like I said, I think that's better. It's better observed on a chassis dyno or even on the street if we want to just nail the thing in second gear, third gear, whatever, at 2000 RPM and see what happens and do that. Obviously we're going to have less timing in it there. But then that would show us like a real response, and then gear dependent response also, because what it's going to do in first gear is different than what it's going to do in second gear and third gear and fourth and fifth and sixth, how many ever gears you have. It's going to do something different in all of those. But that's why I love having all of this data, and I can go back and look at it, even on a test that I forgot about. And that was on a stock 5.3 bone stock one. It made over 600 horsepower. So it did good. It did kind of what you'd think. So the turbo it tells me that turbo has good response and can also support those power levels, which steers me in the direction of what we've been thinking about for these turbos that we selected to test for like a stock 4.8 or a stock 5.3, or even one that's got a cam in it. Because I would argue a cammed one probably would want more boost response than a stock one does, because a stock one, depending on what cam you put in, it's probably going to have more low speed power, particularly on a 4.8. So lots of cool stuff coming, and we're doing that. But we're again later tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So for 2 hours and 18 minutes, we'll be on with Chad, and so that will be fun. We'll see how you guys are doing. Hopefully it's not too cold where most of you guys are. And again, my heart's going out to all the guys dealing with fires down in Southern California. I try to check in with those guys and see how they're doing. It's just a sucky deal. Weird that it's happening in winter time and not the normal fire season is when it's hot and everything, kind of toward the end of the summer when everything's super hot and all scorched. So Is a 67 millimeter too small for an LS V8? And we'll make this specific. Is a single 67 millimeter turbo too small for an LS V8? The other thing that's coming up later with Chad is we are going to I have clips from our Wheel of Death show that we did where we dropped the BBs down in the motor and stuff. I think that was called Daisy Dukes. And you get to see Steve Brule in a wig. So it's all really makes it all worthwhile for tonight. So good times will be had tonight. Surfer Jag, Ragtop. 2 of these, right? Yeah. No, not 2 of these. A single 67. Waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one. Good to see you guys. We want all the boost. Low buck truck to Michigan this week. Thank you, Randy. Nice. A small single with a small cam is going to be a Wild Street combo. 0.82 AR on the 5.3. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask Jimmy what the AR is. Maybe he'll come on here and I'll see. Although I think he was driving somewhere. I'll look and see what the hot side was on that. And what size. I don't remember if it's a 67, 66 or 67, 62. Live chats are good. Yeah, we're sharing the information. Turbo size is always 67 millimeters when asked about. So now that it runs good at 10 psi. I go to 20 now. Yeah, that's right. That's what you jump to, right? You just got to double it. It's in increments of whatever the starting point was. So if you would have started at 8, you'd have just jumped to 16, right? Going to bump it up 2 psi until I get to 16. Should be making around 260 wheel horsepower. Yeah, let me know. Are you monitoring the charge temperature at all, Turbo Centra? Let me know if you are. I'm curious to see what the temperature is. Make sure rings have extra gap. That's true. I'll be trying that. VS Racing Gen 2 should be a blast. Yep, that'd be a good turbo. That's got plenty of power potential. You missed the point of my heat soak comment. What was the point of your heat soak comment? Didn't you tell me that if you put cold air going into the motor that it's better? Is that the one? GT35 single bone stock 4.8 in a truck with a stick. We're going to try that. We're actually going to try a single GT35 82 because I have one of those. We're going to try that on the LS and just see. In my opinion, it's a little on the small side because I think of it more as a 500 to 600 horsepower turbo. We've run them a lot on 4-cylinder stuff, Honda stuff in particular. But I want to see what it does. I want to see what the boost pressure and back pressure is, and we're going to be monitoring all of that stuff. 2002 Yukon 6.7 liter LS3, a 6.7 liter. So it's a 415 or something. LS3 LQ4 88 124 VS Racing turbo and 2-stage nitrous controller. Okay, so you're doing like, I don't know. What are you doing? No prep with it or something? Don't want to lose boost at 2000. Yeah, I don't want all the boost at 2000 RPM. A supercharger has all the boost as soon as you stab the throttle. If you have a stock converter and stab it from a light, you could see 20 pounds at 1500. No, that's not true. Not on a centrifugal blower, not on any centrifugal blower does that happen. And then also at 2000 RPM, depending on the speed of the blower, you might not even have peak boost at 2000 RPM. You might have a rising boost curve even on a positive displacement blower. But they are better at that. A positive displacement is better at boost response than either the centrifugal or usually a turbo. But a lot of times with smaller turbos, especially the OEM stuff, they can have full boost down that low. Speaking of boost curve, 10 psi flat from 25 to 7. Inlet air temp down to 120. Bypass valve was sticking closed. Okay. I'm curious how you get a flat boost curve on that blower with that motor. I would think that it would be rising. But are you regulating the bypass to make that happen? Have you ever run into problems with specific types of spark plugs when running tests? Coworkers run sport mod on dirt and says iridiums don't like the E85. Looking at TR9 NGKs for my turbo. I haven't had that problem. We haven't had that problem on the engine dyno. We've run NGK iridiums, or not NGK, Denso iridiums, and had good luck. That's what I ran on all the big bang motors. And I don't remember having problems on E85, but the one thing that we do that a lot of people don't do is that we change the dwell on the coils. We have also really tight plug gaps, like 18 or 19 thousandths on the plugs. And then also 4.5 milliseconds of dwell that we can adjust with the Holly. And so if you don't do that, I could see where you would run into more problems than we do, where you could find limitations for plugs. Yes, and it's a power eater, not adder. A turbo is free power. Pre-spool is like the instant boost with a buffer. I'm going to show you guys. I just found some more data today on some testing that the guys at Kenny Bell did with a TVS on their blower dyno and then the twin screw blower, and it shows RPM and boost and power consumption and all that, and temperature and stuff. So it's really pretty cool. Running those blowers at like 20,000 RPM, or no, not 20,000, 18,000. Scrolling. Scrolling back. Everybody snowed in today. Dodgy Brothers, what's going on? What size LSV8? We tested the one that I just tested. I was talking about today was on a 5.3, but also I'm kind of more concerned about the 4.8 stuff. On a 6 liter, you don't really have to worry about spool rate as much. Thank you for the addiction to spending money. Yeah, that happens. Doesn't that depend on your needs? If it makes boost, it isn't too small. If you want mega boost, it is. Richard, I'm using that low buck cam in my daily. I had to get a new cam gear to turn the 1-bolt 58 4X to a 3-bolt. Looks like my cam reads from the front already. It should work nice. Okay, yeah. So sometimes, like the VVT stuff has a unique the way that it bolts on. The and some of the factory cams are single bolts, and so you just need a different gear and the 3 bolts. Just make sure that they're not too long. Well, on a cam, that's not going to be a problem as long as there's not slop there. I have a 6 liter 799 head Truck Norris cam 10.7 to 1. I want to run a 7875, but want great response. I run a 96. Well, obviously the smaller one's going to give you better response if that's what your concern is. Currently running a 6762 on a 5.3 with 8 pounds. Yeah, that should be fun, right? That thing, is it an automatic, Bill? Small 4.8 5.3. Am I late? No, Danny, you're good. Does this test have any back pressure data? Let me see if I don't know if we got. I don't think I did back pressure. No, I'm pretty sure I didn't on this one, but all of my other testing will have that. Are you using compressor, speed sensor, and a turbine back pressure sensor? We're not using a compressor sensor, no. But we will have back pressure. We'll have boost pressure and back pressure and temperature. The 70 I had my 351 was good. So Ragtop, what did you say? What did I miss? If I missed something, please let me know. Made the mistake of trying the Summit Big Nasty in my daily driver. It does not like light or part throttle driving. Some of that might be tuning, but that's not the cam that I would pick. I like the guys at Summit. I love Brian, but that's not a cam that I would recommend for almost any of the guys. Ever see someone run 30 and 50 accelerator pumps on a carb? I bought on 3 secondhand, and it was set up like that. Well, my question is, does it work? I wouldn't worry about the numbers and be concerned that I would want to know whether that works or not. And then if it doesn't work, then I would adjust it. What's a realistic horsepower goal to hit for a 3,000-pound turbo car street driven? Struggles with traction even at 500 with a turbo 400. 67 is too much. Well, Tim, if you want, can you make it come on later? Can you have a rising boost curve? Do you have a boost controller to put the power in where it can be useful? I have twin 67s on my LS making 1200. Spool's fast and it runs great on the street. Okay. Has to be 706 high velocity heads, and this is not racing. It's a street driver fun truck. Lakeside. I don't know what you were talking about before. So Lakeside, did you have a question about that? I said I was getting heat soak running on hot days and mentioned what I had done to reduce heat under the hood. I thought that didn't you say that on a 90-degree day that it doesn't work as good as on a 50-degree day? Wasn't that your comment? Or am I talking to somebody else about that? Soft power with turbo versus hard power with a supercharger. I don't know what the soft and hard thing are. I don't know what your designation is for that. You're regulating the bypass. Okay, that I was wondering because that didn't seem like that the supercharger on that motor should do that. If you guys are interested in monitoring your exhaust pressure, I think Mode of Motion just came out with a kit as a built-in buffer and some other things. Brent did a YouTube video on it. All you need to do is we just use a coil of, you can use copper or aluminum and attach it to the exhaust. We use a steel fitting and then we run it up to a pressure sensor. Richard, I want to put some forged pistons and rods in my 6-liter. Do I really need to rebalance the rotating assembly when you keep the stock crank? Yes, definitely. Your forged rotating assembly is definitely going to be different weight than the stock stuff. 100%. Uh, 4.8 liter with an HE 35 351 blows the tires off easily. You can size the turbo to come up later and can change the tune for that purpose. Garrett says the G35 1050 is good for 2 liter to 5.5 liter engines, which is a 68 millimeter. If you have a bigger turbo that spools up slow and maybe a high ram intake that kills low speed torque, okay, you're trying to control the boost there. I have a 6L90 being built right now. Just looking for a transport case. Nobody needs 1,000 horsepower on the street. Good luck with that, Scott, telling people that. I have a new in-the-box BS Racing Next Gen 7875 for $450. Jamie's got a turbo for sale. 7875 is what I'm going with, but a 67 wood spool. Threw me for a loop because a 2005 GXP was a 24X, 1X. And the 08 is a 58.4. Everybody needs 1,000 horsepower. The nice thing about a turbo is it doesn't have to make 1,000 horsepower. Your 1,000 horsepower on the street could easily be 500 or 600 if you just turn the boost down. I'm telling you right now, Nitro, a G35 by itself would not make 1,050 on a 5.5 liter without two of them. I don't think so either. I mean, I know that when a lot of those turbo guys are rating the turbo, they're rating it like best case scenario and best case scenario. This is, you can run it on a 2.5 liter. It has to be a really, really good one. You can also run it on a 5.5 liter, but you know, it just doesn't work that way. It's like the cam manufacturers telling, oh, this cam's good for 1,500 to 6,500. Really? The engine will make those RPMs, certainly, but is the cam really effective in that big of an RPM range? Probably not. I'm getting more interested in 4.8s because they are way cheaper than other LSs. Folks are asking $3,000 for 5.3s and 6 others around here. 4.8s are cheaper. I don't know why that would be. The wrecking yards all the wrecking yards I've seen, a 4.8 and a 5.3 are the same thing. They don't even know what the difference is. In fact, if you went and told them that was a 4.8, they would believe you that it's a 4.8 unless you had to give them the VIN number. Richard, please use stock GM injectors so it's a low buck max power. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in having the injector limit the power output. Your fueling for your setup should have enough fuel so that you can supply the power that you want. I don't want to only supply enough power that those injectors will handle, particularly because we probably would be running E85. So the amount of power that we can make on E85 is not going to be very much on a 44-pound injector. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, that's like 525 to 550 horsepower. Yeah, we won't limit that on E85. I'm running the Summit twin scroll manifold and their wastegates and crossover pipe. Scott, are you trying to get him to like, share, subscribe? We have 108 people here and 43 thumbs up. On 3's famous. You have to take it off and on 3 times before it fits. 4.8s were a better option in light cars and Chevettes. The one thing that I would do if you were putting together some kind of turbo kit, there's something to think about. So if you put a small turbo on there, and let's say that you have everything else that you need to put a bigger turbo on, do you have a transmission to do that, and gearing and a drive shaft and rear end and all that stuff, and ring gap, hopefully. If you have all that stuff, make it so that, because if you have one T4 turbo and you can bolt another T4 turbo on there, that's a turbo upgrade, man. That's really easy. Sitting here on my couch, staring at a North Star engine. All right, that's good. I'm with you. I like the way the story's starting out. But I don't have the money right now. Yep, I get it. On the basic Fox body, upgraded suspension, 275 tires, littles up front. Everybody needs an engine in their living room. Had an $8 Papa John's New York style for $8. Nice, double sauce. Donnie, what are you saying? Let's see. I'm telling you right now. Oh. Never had a Papa John's pizza. I don't remember. I'm sure that I have. I just don't remember ever getting one of those. Don, thank you very much. Showing some love for what you do, for giving back to the community. Great. We already spent that last night on drinks. It was good though. Have you tried any of the whole set turbos? I have. I've run a number of whole sets because Jimmy from HP used to use whole sets for his kits. So we have tried some of them, but I don't know which ones he had though. Not any of the whole sets that you would get from the wrecking yard though. That's crank horsepower, the Garrett quote. There's one over by the Lowe's store where I shop, but Domino's is closer. When I go get pizza for the boys, like during the day or whatever, when they come home from school before soccer for Owen, I usually go get Little Caesars because it's convenient and, you know. Silverado 1500, stock 5.3, GTX 3584, auto trans, makes full boost at the time, 10 PSI at 1800. And the only time it doesn't boost is locked up in high gear, 5500. I haven't pulled timing anywhere. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Sam's Club has $100 in Domino gift cards for $75. We go get that stuff too. We get it from Costco. They have some deals like that where the place that we go to, in fact, the place that we go to happy hour at, they have like, it's like that. It's like 75% value or whatever. And so we get those because we know that we're going to spend that. But that way you get more. You get more bang for your buck. Richard, my son wants a 6-liter swap, a 1500 4x4, an NV 3500 stick. I said run a 4.8 soft power versus a 6-liter, more drivable with a tiny GT35, 44-pound stock injectors. Okay, yeah. If you run really low boost on a 4.8, you want to make 500 horsepower or something like that, you could do that. But he's going to have on a turbo 4.8, he's going to have a lot of torque though. 5.3s are still cheap at the junkyard. You can buy a new 5.3 for $3,000. I have a 6765 0.71 AR on my 4.8, Makes 7 pounds at 1,600 and third gear locked up. Perfect for towing. Nice. At 1,600, do you have a how do you get it to be at 1,600? Isn't the factory stall speed higher than that? That comment was not about cold air in the intake. Okay, well, send me over what you're talking about. I'll try to refigure out what you're saying there. Richard, what dyno graph look like on the 5.3? Higher boost, did the power dip bad? On this 5.3, no, the power curve looks exactly like the factory power curve because the boost was consistent. So it just mirrors what the stock one does. It makes peak horsepower at the same RPM as the factory motor made, as the NA motor made peak power. It does exactly the same thing. Has to be stock fuel, not E85. Okay. Yeah, that you could make more power that way. Just, there's less octane and stuff. So you're going to be running less timing and everything. So that will be fine. You can make more with pump gas, probably 700 or something, if I remember right. No, more like 600. Always use the buy 2 pizzas for $6.99 special, which means I have 2 days worth of pizzas. Yeah, that's the thing. We always have a bunch. Trying to build support for the channel. There you go, Scott. I go for the $8 large carryout and use the discount gift cards. Buy 6 and get a free medium. There you go. Hey, we got to get what we get, right? I go online and points are added to my account. Every so often I get a free the emergency pizzas. That's for when the big eagle or whatever comes down and steals your sandwich. I like the drivability of large turbine, large compressor S300 frames. Lean on the gate a little bit more, but you don't have to wait so long for it to come to life. Comment was about underhood temps. Okay. Superhero landing. That's right. It's bad on the knees, though. So, Eric, what was your comment? Yo, E-Dog. Oh, because you don't have any money. Yeah, you're sitting on the couch. I get that. Need to create a new email account just to get the buy one pizza, get a free medium pizza with one purchase. I found it better to rate my turbos adding a 0 to the end of the pounds per minute of airflow. Seems to be more real world than numbers that they advertise. That's what I do. I look at the bottom is power to me. It's not airflow. I don't use that as airflow. If you add a 0 to that, that's the horsepower. That's a good. It's not exact, but it's a good estimate for power. You're not looking for an exact position on that map because you don't know. The vast majority of us, other than the people that manufacture the turbos that have sensors in them, or dedicated racers that have configurations where they have a sensor, nobody knows what the speed of the wheel is, and so it'd be hard for you to get an exact position, anyways. I mean, again, you could get an estimate if you had, especially if you had a mass air meter, if you had the flow and you had the boost and you knew the power output, you could triangulate that stuff. Watch the guy on YouTube port a 92 millimeter throttle body. I don't know if it would be worth anything on a 92. Do you think it served purpose on a 78? Well, the answer is this. You can definitely make a 78 millimeter throttle body flow more if you port it. If you make the throttle body flow more, did the motor need more airflow? And also, if you made the 78 millimeter throttle body flow better, does the manifold still flow the same? Like, is the opening in the manifold that's 78 millimeters that matches the throttle body? Does that now need to be ported, and does the airflow need to be improved at that? So you got to look at the whole system. Having a lot of fun pulling a 4L60 this evening out of my wife's truck. Uh-oh, Tom. Anyone, did you say anyone want to come over and join me? We don't have a bunch of pizza options here in Podunk. I like it as a treat once in a while. There you go. Richard, I have to start in second gear with the NV350. That's too much boost. My main thing is fried chicken express in Texas. We just had some of that today from, I don't even know the name of it. It's the first time we've ever had it, but the kids have had it before. Factory stall and a Silverado is $1,650. I thought it was $1,800. Why would I be mad? I don't know why you would be. I'm hoping that you're not. We were just having a conversation, so I don't see why that would come into play. Going to run out a compressor and turn the turbo into a heat pump with a 6-liter on what, Aaron? The NV3500 will be fine for easy on the shifts. We're getting a Sunday live stream. Yes, and we're getting another live stream in a couple of hours. How much power will the factory LS flex fuel injector support on an NA53? I don't know. Can somebody tell me how big it is? Just take the flow rate of the injector and multiply by 16. That will tell you how much power roughly it can support NA on a V8. Jack Stiffens, it's probably a 38-pound injector, so 550. Is that what the flex fuel stuff is? If you went the other direction down the road, you had a golden chuck. Okay. And they had catfish. Ever had fried chicken that smells like catfish? I don't think I have. Asking about the 78mm throttle body porting because my father has one on his TBSS intake in the low buck truck. So he doesn't have a 90mm for that. Any thoughts about TurboSmart's new lineup? I don't, because I haven't tested any of them. I like everything that TurboSmart has done in the past, and they use their wastegates for a lot of stuff, and they're really good guys over there. I don't doubt that they're going to work well. My brother's looking to swap an LS3 into a Bandit TA. Very nice. Although that Bandit TA might be worth money if it has the original motor in it. Since the built 400 is rusted solid, do you think the engine might be too light for the stock suspension? No, I think it'll be fine. Even if you had to cut a coil off of it or whatever, that would be fine. $67mm enough for a 5.7. Yeah, the TurboSmart stuff is not. You can't compare that to a GT45 kind of thing. You probably have no idea how many people have used your info to build the motor. I know I use a ton of your stuff. Thanks, Jamie. It does surprise me how many people I've come across that, because it's not, you look at the people that are here and you're like, okay, these people are definitely listening and hear the same thing all the time. and so if they were going to do something, and a lot of guys have already done stuff, and I'm learning from them too. But it is amazing to hear people that I never hear from. Then one day they'll be, dude, you have no idea what me and all my buddies have built these things based on this. And I'm sure Matt has the same thing happen to him. And Matt's one of the guys I have on my list. I sent a message to Matt to ask him if he could be on one of these live feeds. But I appreciate it. Richard, what if I just replace the pistons only and keep my Gen 4 rods? No, you're going to have to balance it. The pistons are definitely going to weigh. Forged pistons will definitely weigh differently than your stock pistons do. It's a different metallurgy. They're definitely going to be a different weight. The one exception is there's somebody that makes a replacement forged piston, I thought, that's the factory weight. And somebody might chime in here. I don't know who it was. But I thought somebody did that just for that reason, so that you wouldn't have to balance it. My 6.0 with a low buck truck camshaft and an S475 feels like it starts losing power around 5,600. Then you have some other issue, because that camshaft will run to 6,500, and an S475, I don't know how much power you're trying to make or how much boost you're running, but an S475 will feed 1,000 horsepower. So if you're not making that, then you probably have a tune issue. Or you're trying to run it on pump gas, and so you have no timing in it, because that will definitely do that. It'd be sweet to see the performance difference of TurboSmart's electric wastegate versus a standard wastegate. I don't think you see any performance difference there. I don't know what the difference would be, because I don't think an electronic wastegate changes the functionality of the wastegate. I think it just makes it easier to program. I have an AFR Enforcer heads on my 351 Windsor, running Edelbrock cam, Scorpion 1.6 rockers. I've broken 2 rocker arm studs in the first 200 miles of this build. Should I blame it on poor hardware? I don't know how you break a rocker like that, unless the only time I have seen that is if you have the springs are going to coil bind, or if a piston's hitting a valve. Like there's a mechanical interference somewhere to break the rocker. Otherwise, the rocker would have to be really bad if it's not hitting something for the rocker just to break from normal operation. Eric, thank you very much. Not an actual Bandit TA, but similar year. Model was built in the 80s, and he totaled the rear end while running and hiding for 6 hours overnight. Oh, so 700 wheel back then. That's a lot. I listened on the Mopar and the GM Mills. Which someone was denigrating my comment and said I was mad and seeing to think I was stupid and embarrassed. Oh, no. Yeah, I didn't see that either, but no, I don't think that that's the case at all. 19 pounds pump, E85, 12 degrees of timing. Yeah, that's why you're falling off. That's a lot of boost, but 12 degrees of timing is why you're not making any power. And that's why it's falling off, because the 12 degrees of timing will hurt it way more at the horsepower peak than it does at the torque peak. I copied your 6.2, 600 horsepower recipe, except I didn't port the heads. I had the mill compression was 11.5, the comp 281 cam, 1080s, 1090s, and a 3,000 pound Camaro. Okay. Did you have LS3 heads in that? And an LS3 intake? Base 355 small block with 400 NA power, shooting for 700 with a twin turbo setup, blew through carb, turbo size recommendation. Are you just, you want to do a twin turbo then on it for 700 horsepower? Twin 3076s probably would do it. Especially on a 400 horsepower NA motor, that would be good. I'm going from a sloppy 253 with a 100 shot to an 8.1 with a turbo. Yep, you're going to have something. You're going to have a lot of torque. Should be fun. Trying to figure out what turbo size for a fun, responsive motor. The nice thing about an 8.1 is you have all the turbo response that you need. So a 78, 75 Gen 2 or an S475, even a T6 S475 is fine on an 8.1. I think the electric system is a way to go. Seems like you get full control. The thing that people with regards to the electronic wastegate, the thing that people think about an electronic wastegate is the same thing that they think about an electronic boost controller. It does not change the response rate of the turbo. It only does that right at the very point at which the wastegate would start opening. So it fixes that. That's it. It doesn't make the turbo spin up any faster because the wastegate's closed then. But people think that sort of magic happens with electronic wastegates. Could you elaborate a bit more on the effects of changing dwell? Yeah, you're just providing a lot more spark energy. And so you don't get misfires. And if you're getting misfires, that's a problem. And so if you're getting misfires, you might be getting to a point where the spark plug itself is the problem. because you don't have enough dwell time. Like that spark plug would work fine at 4 or 4.5 milliseconds and 18 thousandths plug gap, but that spark plug does not work at 2 milliseconds or 1.5 milliseconds. And so if you haven't adjusted that, then you don't have enough spark energy. And so the plug now is going, okay, look, I'm shutting off in this situation. You could cure it, maybe not with, you might be able to cure it with another plug, but you definitely could cure it with, more dwell time. And you should have very, very small plug gap on it. Don't try to run 30 or 35 thousandths. That doesn't gain you anything. All it does is make it misfire more. Shane Tecklenburg should be on the live feed. Yeah, Shane's been at West Tech, I think, a few times. There may be alcohol involved, but COVID got him a few years. I didn't read the rest of that. Original owner was my brother. That's my brother Daryl. My other brother Daryl. Have you ever thought of teaching a class or doing an online school? No, I've had people reach out to my channel about that, but mostly about them wanting me to do something for them. LS3 heads, notch the pistons, the Victor Junior intake, and 850 Holly, Circle D. Okay. An S480 would be great on a Smedding Performance 502. Yep. There's an 8.1 in the salvage yard for 350. 350. I've not heard the term dwell in 15 years. Yeah, but it's not that. it's not changing the dwell in your points ignition. I've been coming here for years, enjoying the conversations. Yeah, Ragtop, we want you here, man. I'm a Ragtop man. Somebody tell me what movie that's from. Some a-hole bought the last sky blue Cadillac. From a tuning perspective, would it be a good idea to start adding 1 degree of timing when I start to lose torque? Right now, every time it shifts, it's like a slingshot because the power comes back in. Yeah, I need to look at what your boost curve is like and your power and your timing curve is like, and then where you're dropping to on your shift points. A 467 should do 800 horsepower, so I would think it would be fine as long as you didn't need more than that. What's a 467? Is that some big block Chevy? It's not like a 468 would be, what is that? Is that 60 over? So is that 55 over, 59 over? There. Is a single 67 millimeter turbo too small for an LS? 71% are saying no. A 67 millimeter S400. I have had a very bad day. Been in a bus that rolled over 17 times. Anybody else? There you go. Gonna send my friend to you. He's new to performance stuff. I'm going to be on at 6 p.m. So like in an hour and a half. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. Very nice. Need a dyno tune. A lot going on here in the car world. For tuning, James Short from Short Tuning does remote stuff. Richard, I have a 5.3 carb with a stage 2 cam. Watching the channel. I have the wrong cam for low end torque. Can I make it up with a converter? Yeah, converter goes a long way depending on what you pick. But you can go to, you could go crazy. You could put a 4,000 stall converter on it and make it really spicy. But any converter that you pick, different than stock. So if stock is 1,800 or whatever, and then you go to a 2,500 or something, or 2,800 or 3,000, it makes a big difference in acceleration. Richard, is an 88102 VSR turbo way too big for a 5.3? Yes, unless you're trying to get what that turbo will do as an absolute. Do you want whatever power output as a maximum that turbo will support? If you're not, then it's too big. Ragtop Deluxe is from ZZ Top. It's not Deluxe 247. Probably my favorite commercial ever. Replaced a convertible top on 2004 zinc yellow Mustang GT. Is that what the name is? It really? It's zinc yellow? And I would have gladly paid for it to be done. However, I had an Alpine white Mustang with a black top, and they redid the top. I have a 2010 Lingenfelter Camaro 6-speed. All the work was done by Lingenfelter when the car was new. Magnuson 550 package. Would water meth be a good investment? Yeah. John, do you have a problem now with the thing with detonation? For TVS blower stuff, or any kind of positive displacement deal, I really like E85 on those if you do it, if your fuel system is up to that. But yeah, water methanol injection will help with detonation. Turbo is free, so maybe I should sell and get something smaller. Yeah, for a 5.3, that'd not be even on the list of stuff that I would recommend. What would be a good cam with some lope for an 8.8 from PSI, which is based off the 8.1? I don't know. I've only ever run one camshaft on those, which is the ZZ502 cam. But all of the big block stuff would still work on there. And by big block stuff, I just mean all of the big block lobes and profiles and stuff will all work on that. And that's a big one, so you could get away with a lot of cam, as long as you have. I don't know how much available piston to valve clearance you have. If you're still dealing with the stock stuff, it's going to be, like a 230 at 50 kind of thing. Yes, 48 hours. That's it exactly. Crush factor. I'm doing that right now. So a 78, 75 is worth around 900 to 1,000. What would twins do? How does the math work? Yes, just double it. That's it. It's real simple. And in fact, you could argue that they might do a little better than that, because if you got to the flow rate of the hot side first on a single, you wouldn't do that as twins. And so you'd have way less back pressure as twins. So you might make even a little more power than that. But yeah, at least double. You're running StreamYards for Chad. Yes. Yeah, so we'll be looking at other different things too. Looking to go twin turbo, looking to hit 4-digit power levels on the 85. Yeah, that's really easy. It's easy with a single, but easy also with twins. Double the turbos, double the fun. That's right. You just double the lag too. that's the other maybe downside, I guess, for that. But hey, charges hard on the big ends. Twin turbos of that size is like putting a stage 15 camshaft in it. We got one more minute, and then everybody make sure that you come back for the Chad. Gotta show some love, gotta show some respect. Chad probably hasn't seen these clips in a long time, because I don't even know if I've seen these actually air, because they were part of the Hot Rod Network deal. And so there were videos that we did for them as a TV show, but I don't know that I've ever seen them other than the ones that we turned in. Yes, the Chad. Yes, that's what we call him, among other things. So make sure you go check out richardholderperformance.com for all your LS needs. And we're excuse me, we're adding, the next thing we're adding is trunnion upgrades. I've come to realize, and people have told me this, and I've been recommending it this way for years anyways, but if you have if you have a really high mileage LS, and my take has always been, I wouldn't never upgrade. I don't think I wouldn't put a trunnion kit like on a brand new set of rockers. I don't think that there's just the benefit from that. I don't think you'd see a difference in power or anything. And longevity would be a very long drawn out test for that. But if you have a motor that has 100 or 200 or 300,000 miles on them, like old Silverado out here, think how many cycles that is on the rocker. So the rocker trunnion the factory ones are probably worn out. So I would replace it just for that. Just like with it'd be that and well, to an even greater extent, the lifter trays. Definitely, if you're going to get a wrecking yard motor, and particularly if you're putting ring gap in it because you're putting boost in it, because you should, definitely lifter trays are cheap. You should put lifter trays in it. And so really high mileage stuff, trunnion upgrade might not be a bad idea. It's pretty easy to do with the right tools, with a trunnion upgrade tool. You just need a vise, basically. It's not really that hard to do. The trunnion upgrade, you'll need newer valve covers. Do the newer valve covers do they not fit in between them anymore? Is that the problem? Richard, you always talk E85, but in Canada, we'll only have 15% max, so we can't use information on E85, plus you need 25% more fuel. You do need, if you're doing E85, you definitely need 25% more fuel, basically. And it just means that you're losing power, because with the E85, you have more octane, and you have charge cooling, and so you can run more timing and more boost. And so it's better every way. But if you don't have that, then you have to run the timing that you can with 91 or 93 pump gas, whatever you guys have. And you just, just flat out just can't make as much power because you don't have the octane to do that. Am I near the fires? No, we're in Northern California. So that's pretty far from us. That's 300 or 400 miles from us. In Iowa, you can spit in an E85 station because they have all the corn there. The elder covers that hang down that won't fit between the upgrade shafts. Okay, because it narrows the distance between them narrows, right? I think I remember doing the upgrade for that. Live 2 miles from ethanol plant. It's just nice. It's just like cheap, like pump gas race fuel, basically. I get that, but we can't get it. So if it's a driver you want fuel you can get for the tune. Yeah, you just have to tune it so that you can run it on the fuel that you have. That's pretty normal. You just have to take a whole bunch of timing out of it. The air fuel is still going to be the same on a gas scale. It's still going to want to be in the 11s. And instead of being able to run 22 degrees or something, you're going to have to run, depending on what your boost is, it's going to be in the low teens probably. I have a stock 5.3 with trunnion upgrades, and they're fine. And on that note, it is time to go. But I will see you guys in like an hour and a half with the Chad. I'll see you guys tonight.